estate is one of the top ways to build wealth in society. And if you want to know how it's done, then check out today's episode. What's going on, guys? It's Josiah, your success consultant, and today's video is all about real estate investing for beginners. So make sure that you subscribe and let's dig in. So the first thing that you need to focus on, all right, maybe I'm getting a little bit too ahead of myself right now. I'm really fired up for this video because everybody talks about real estate, and rightfully so. You know, real estate is one of the best wealth building streams known to man. And there's so many reasons why. But for me personally, I'll just leave it to my top two. So some of you guys may already know I own real estate in North Austin. And I started doing this years ago and have been reaping the benefits since. And while it's not a crystal stair or a magic bullet to wealth, it takes time to grow and accumulate over time, I would not change anything about my real estate experience. So with no further ado, like I was saying, what are some of the top reasons why I think that real estate is such a great investment? Well, first and foremost, it's all about passive income, right? I'm going to say that again. Maybe I should even write this down, okay? Passive income. Passive income. I like saying that word in this context because passive income is always better than active income when you can help it, right? When I go about making money off of my real estate and I get paid a rental check every single month, that's the easiest way for me to get paid. It's a hell of a lot better than when I was working at a regular 9-to-5 job and I had to work 40 hours a week for every check that I was making. In any given month in my real estate, I can only do maybe 2, 3, 4 hours of work tops, and I'm walking away with a healthy check, okay? Every month that I've got a tenant there, got the right tenant there, right? So passive income, man, you gotta have it. It's a life changer. It'll be able to do things for you, your family, your peace of mind. It's going to change how you view money in and of itself once you start separating time from money, okay? So that passive income is one important reason why I'm a big fan of real estate in the way that I go about it. But the second thing is this. The population of the world, it's constantly growing, right? As of right now, there's 7.4 billion people on the planet, projected. Only the Lord knows who's really on the planet, right? But when we think about those numbers on paper, one of the things that we have to think about is when it comes to the subject of land, the population is growing, right? But the land mass that's been put in the world really isn't going anywhere. So that creates what economists would call scarcity. In other words, supply and demand, right? You only have but so much land, and you've got more and more people coming into the world that are going to be demanding those resources. So that means what? For a guy like me, that's a pretty safe guarantee that I can always raise my prices. It's a guarantee to some extent, right, that maybe if I make the right investment on a property, then my property is going to appreciate in value in time. And as I've always told you guys, the difference between a rich person and a poor person is how they spend their dollar, okay? So you can choose to take your money and invest it in something that's going to make you more money passively over time, like real estate, or you could take your money and you can put it into something that's not going to make you a red cent, right? It's all about the dollar and where you put it. So, you know, I like that real estate piece for the second reason in that, you know, it's going to become more and more in demand as time continues to play itself out, okay? But let's get into the top 3 things that you need to focus on in real estate investing for beginners, because I know you don't want to just hear about my story. You want to be able to have a piece of the pie too. You want to have a seat at the table. So I won't hold that out from you. Let's go ahead and get into it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button. So the first thing that you need to focus on when it comes to the subject of investing in real estate for beginners is getting educated about the real estate direction that you want to go, okay? Real estate is a world in and of itself, okay? And you don't just take $1 and just start throwing money all over the place. No wise investor would do that, right? Any wise investor would know what they're investing into before they actually made their investment. So that's the first thing that you got to be able to do, right? I'm giving you the steps right now. First and foremost, you've got to get educated. Now, when it comes to you getting educated, what does that mean? Well, there's a few specific ways in which I really think that getting educated about real estate particularly is important. First, you need to be able to educate yourself on, do I want to do this as a, on the side passive income stream, or do I want to be able to get a little bit more actively involved, right? So how aggressively are you looking into getting into this market? Because that's going to dictate where your area of learning should go, right? So if you're someone that's kind of like me and said, well, you know what? Real estate is not going to be my end-all be-all, but I do want to be able to make some money from real estate. When you look at the average millionaire today, they have over 7 different streams of income. So they may have streams of income that's in different places, but most of them have one income stream in real estate, right? So when it comes to your real estate investing, are you going to do it as more of a passive investor, or are you going to do it as an active investor? Once you make that decision, then you got to start deciding, okay, well, which route of real estate am I going to go into? Am I going to look into becoming a real estate investor from the perspective of a landlord, right? Where I'm going to be buying property and I'm going to be making rent checks every month, being an investor. Am I going to be, flipping houses, right? Maybe doing wholesale, all types of different real estate scenarios that are available to you to get into this game, okay? Now, for a guy like myself, like I said, I kind of like to go into more of the passive landlord game, because one of the things that I did particularly just for my own lifestyle was I decided to buy a property where I could live in one of the units and my tenant could live in another of the units, okay? There's a lot of you guys that have had questions. Should I buy a house or should I not? Well, I don't feel like renting because, I'm spending all of this money on rent and I want to be able to own something. Well, if you watch some of my previous videos, I've told you, based upon, previous understandings that have come out in books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or just looking at a balance sheet, you understand that your home itself is a liability. Being a homeowner by nature is very expensive, and you don't become wealthy based upon buying a home, okay? So going into buying a home with the thought process that I'm just doing it in exchange for renting is becoming a very flawed logic economically, especially in this day and age where being a homeowner is becoming very, very expensive, right? So in order for me to make the most of actually buying a property and kind of wanting to have a little bit more of a home type feel, I bought a property, right, that gave me that home type feel, but it was a multi-family, multi-unit home, right? So given that, I'm living in one unit, I've got a tenant in another unit, and when it comes to paying down on the mortgage for the property as a whole, obviously I have my tenant contributing to making those mortgage payments possible. Okay. It's as though I'm living on my side at a discount, right? And depending upon how you set that up and structure it, it could be for free. It could be, all different types of great things that you could do in real estate. I really like real estate because not only is it going to help you start making some passive income through rent checks, it also has tax benefits, okay? But we can go into that in a whole different discussion. I just wanted to throw that out there because with you being a more wise financial person being subscribed to this channel, you would know that making money is not just about the check that you bring in today. It's about how good of a job you do at being able to mitigate your tax situation, because taxes are going to be the death of so many people's income, right? In fact, if you go an entire, average working lifetime, which is 40 years of an adult working at a job, at least 20 of those years worth of paychecks is going to go towards taxes. So you got to be able to make sound financial decisions that's not only making you money today, but it's helping you reduce your tax burden, which is the reason why real estate is awesome. Okay. So you've got to get educated about all of that. You don't want to just rush into something with $1, because if you rush into something with $1 and you don't know what you're getting yourself into, you're going to go belly up. For me, I didn't want it to be my end all be all. Why? Because I wanted to do this channel of Black Men's Career. I would have never been able to do this Black Men's Career channel at this particular time if I would have personally went all in on the real estate field. Maybe you're different. Maybe you want to go all in on the real estate field. So you got to decide whether you want to go passive or active and in what arena of real estate. Okay. So the second thing that there were other points that I wanted to draw from on this, trying to give you as much value as possible, okay? What you want to do also when it comes to how you will get educated about this, right? How will you get educated? Are you going to go back to college? Are you going to, read a book? Are you going to do this, that, and the third? What I would personally recommend, if at all possible, is for you to be able to find a mentor in someone that's already doing what you want to do in the field of real estate. So if you already know someone that's playing the landlord game and it's profitable to them, start shadowing them to learn how they do it. If you already know someone that's flipping houses, find out how they do it. Even if you don't know someone, the best thing that you could do, you could start using maybe websites like meetup.com, and you could start actually getting in groups of people that are already investing in real estate. You got real estate investment clubs and different people and communities in your local area that consist of like-minded people like yourself that are interested in real estate investing, and they might be a little bit further ahead of where you are, and they might be able to give you some golden nuggets along the way, okay? So that would be my personal primary means of getting educated in that field. You want to start not always thinking about, well, I got to go to college for this and I got to go to college for that, because all of this type of learning is more practical rather than theoretical. What I mean by that is life is important, right? Like you need real life experience, not just something that you're going to read in a book. Reading it in a book is important, but there's certain components about real estate that when it happens in real life, you will wish that you had the real life experience on whether you make one decision or another. Like I remember in the past, there was one tenant that I had to end up taking to court because they were not paying on rent like they were supposed to. They were just really rude and just so entitled. It became really hard for me to actually be a good landlord to that tenant because of the fact that they weren't operating based upon the lease agreement. So, you want to be able to get a mentor in that area that's able to kind of show you this is the type of tenant that you want to focus on getting. Maybe if you're in the flipping houses, these are the types of houses that you want to look for before you start making certain investments in them in order to flip. You need to start finding someone that's already been through that path So that way they can kind of maneuver you around the mistakes, because when you make mistakes in real estate, it has certain dollar signs behind it. Okay. Real estate is a more expensive game, especially depending upon the level that you play it. So you need to be around someone that kind of knows what they're doing. Okay. Now, I do recommend that you check out books or other programs for real estate, like to encourage, obviously, another black man that's made a career out of real estate. I obviously recommend Jay Morrison. Check out his Real Estate Academy. Check out his programs. That's a great opportunity to be able to teach you guys about how to get more real estate oriented in your community. I would also recommend, again, that you guys do read books, but for self-education, right? So I would go on Amazon, look for some of the best-selling books about how to be a real estate investor, right? Look for some of the best-selling books on what specific area of real estate that you want to get into. Maybe in the process of you reading that book, and you're on the fence right now of which part of the real estate world that you want to delve into, maybe the book could give enough context and content on which one you should decide. Okay. So those are kind of like the thought processes that I would have about this. But overall, you start to get educated. Like, you need to get educated about this. You just can't go into something and just start losing money hand over fist, because in that case, you probably won't be in the real estate game very long and you won't be successful. Okay. The next thing that I would do if I was in your shoes as a real estate investor, I would start small. Okay. So again, this is where your temper has to be controlled on how big you want to shoot for your first real estate investment, right? So let's say right now you're someone that wants to put some money down on a property, right? And you want to take that property and you want to start being able to make money from it. Again, passive income. Okay. So you say, well, you know what? I'm thinking, why do I even need to get like rent a home, or why do I need to even get a duplex rented? I'm going to just go for a huge apartment complex when it's like 32 units or 100 units. I'm going to just go big on my first way in. Don't do that. Do not do that. This is when being over ambitious is actually going to kill your bank account and your future to some extent. You got to be able to start small and work your way up in real estate. Why? Because when you make mistakes, you're going to do them with dollars on the line. That's what I was saying earlier, right? So, for me personally, when I bought a real estate property, I bought a duplex. The reason why I bought a duplex is because I wanted at an initial point to start making passive income, but I wanted to be able to do it under the path of least resistance, right? I wanted to be able to understand, well, before I start just dealing full-fledged with a tenant, well, let me just deal with one tenant and let me see how that goes. And then guess what? I can always move out of my unit and then start dealing with two tenants. Or I could get another property and start dealing with more tenants and more tenants and more tenants. But if I did not like my experience with one tenant, who's to say that I would ever want to sign up for dealing with two tenants or three or four, right? There's certain learning that you need to get on a smaller level before you expand, right? And this reminds me of one of my favorite scriptures. He that is faithful in few shall be made ruler over many, right? So if you're not faithful in just starting small and learning the lessons that come from that, you're never going to be in a proper position to control more infrastructure, to have more homes, right? Because you haven't learned all of the nuances that goes into the field of real estate investing, right? Even outside of just dealing with tenants, you know how much paperwork goes into this when you're first trying to buy a property? If you're going to the bank to be able to get a mortgage, and it's going to be for an investment property. You know how, the process you're going to have to go through for that. We haven't talked about, should you get a real estate license? Should you not get a real estate license? There's a whole world regarding real estate. So again, that's the reason why I'm saying understanding how wide and how deep of a world this truly is, and how quickly you could get lost in it with a lot of money on the table. Best for you to start small. If you don't take anything else away from this call, best for you to be able to start small and work your way up. Okay, so like I said, whether that means a duplex, whether that means a triplex, you may decide that you want a fourplex. That would be more of kind of how I go about doing things. I'm not a real estate agent, a realtor. I don't have my real estate license, so I'm not just going to go out here and shot call about this and that. I'm just talking about my own personal experience. I wanted to be able to have money in real estate. I wasn't going to make a full-time occupation out of it. I plan on expanding my real estate further. And so in order for me to do that effectively, I needed to lay it brick by brick. Okay. And for those of you that want to follow a similar path, well, hey, I can tell you the types of results that I've gotten from it. I found that when I started small, there was a lot that I had to learn in the moment. There was a lot of things that, some of those things I was never told. Some of those things I would have never knew about unless I went through it personally. That's the reason why I made my mistakes small, okay? To me, that's just a wise investing principle. It makes good business sense. If you feel that it does as well, be my guest, all right? Number 3, here's what I would recommend that you do. And not only, does the starting small have to deal with just, again, dealing with a tenant or the paperwork. What about all the contracting that needs to be done on a property? You got to make repairs to properties. You got to renovate properties. So don't, again, think that it's so passive on a level where it's like you're never going to have to do anything. Everything has to be managed. Are you going to have a property manager that's going to be taking care of your property? Or are you going to be dealing with it yourself? Who are you going to hire to take care of the plumbing? Who are you going to hire to take care of the contracting and all these different things? Are you going to have insurance? And there's so many different things. I just cannot continue to tell this to you. All right. I don't want to beat the dead horse. I want to encourage you to start small. Okay. And then work your way up. Number 3, focus on the return on investment that you're going to get from a property rather than cosmetics, location, or anything else, okay? Again, what's the title of the video? Real estate investing for beginners, right? So if we were to do a video that was talking about anything other than the ROI, well, then that would be kind of a contradictory video. So what I want to do is I want you to get focused on the return on investment that you would actually get from a property. Because what happens is this, especially if you're starting off now, you may already have, a certain amount of money that you might say, you know what, I want to get into real estate right now. And you may have a certain level of money right now that you want to use to get yourself in the real estate game. But because you got money to throw around, you just may do it just by whatever your eyes can see, right? So maybe you say, oh, well, I want it in a nice community. I want the chandeliers to be looking a certain way. I want the marble floors to be looking a certain way. I want this to look like this. I want that to look like that. And you could spend so much money and so much effort trying to find this home the way that you want it to look and the place that you want it to be, having the things that you want to have, that the property and the investment itself no longer becomes profitable, right? If you spend so much money on a down payment and then you spend so much other money on a renovation, well, if you're not following the math, you could spend so much money putting into the property that you're not getting the right amount of money from the property, okay? So it's very important that you focus on getting a property as a real estate investor that can actually get you a good return on investment. My personal strategy for this, I like to look for a property that's already proficient up to a certain level that doesn't need a lot of renovation or fixing up. Now, why am I saying this, right? Because when I first got a property, that happened to be one of my mistakes. Okay. When I first got the property, my eyes were really on it. I was like, man, this looks nice. Man, it looks good. Man, the location is awesome. Right. And I've enjoyed it. But when the inspector came, they were very much on the fence about giving me an honest assessment on whether I should go with the property or not, because the inspector knew that there was a lot of work to be done. Okay. And so with so much work to be done, I'm spending tens of thousands of dollars on renovations, right? I'm fixing all new AC. I'm getting floors. I'm doing painting. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And if you're not focused on, okay, there's a certain amount of money that I'm paying on paper, right? There's a certain amount that the house is worth when you first look at buying it. That might be the front number, but then you got closing costs, right? Then you got renovation costs. You need to be having extra money at your disposal that you need to have available for the cost that you don't see on paper. Because I hope you wouldn't be as naive to think that all you got to do is put a certain amount of money up for a down payment and you're never going to spend money going towards this again. I can tell you this very safely. If you decide to invest in real estate and you get a tenant and a pipe gets broken in their unit and you don't have the money for it, they don't care that you don't have the money for it. They want it fixed. Right? You get a tenant and, something breaks down and you don't have insurance, so you don't have the capital that you need to be able to invest and fix it, then that's going to make you a slumlord instead of a landlord. So my best recommendation to you is this. Focus on making sure that you're focused not just on the cost of the home on paper. You're focused on having money for closing. You're having money for renovations and repairs. And once you've done the math of that, you're still going to get a solid return on your investment after the dust has settled. Okay? Don't just buy a property and say, oh, well, this is a property that is cheap on paper. But then when you buy it, you're having to put all this money into this black pit of renovations. And then after you actually look back at it and, you look at the return on investment, it's not actually that profitable. Okay? Do the math on the front end. This is where you need to start having a love for math. Not just that school BS math where they were saying, oh yeah, Johnny has 5 apples and Susie has 10 apples, and they split the apples amongst themselves in a 50% share. How many apples were used? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about do the real calculations behind these different costs, and will this actually be a return on your investment? Okay. When you start getting rent checks from people, how much would those rent checks be? Are you going to be holding on to the property long enough for a number of years for that property to even give you a return on your investment based on the amount of money that you put into it or based on the property cost? You can get a property that would be a wise investment, but you're not actually going to see ROI potentially until years down the line. That's why I said earlier, it's not a silver bullet. It's not a magic bullet. I've had to repair my property. I've had to put in unexpected amounts of cash, but at the same time, I've been able to enjoy consistent rent checks from month to month. My property is constantly appreciating. It's improving the value of my net worth. And I can safely say that if you can stick in the the real estate game long enough, right, it's going to be able to give you a return if you have made a wise investment. All right. So If you want to know more about this subject, one of the things that I would highly advise you to do is click the link below to download my free Empire Builder. Okay, this is a free gift to you for watching this video, because I am trusting that you're going to take this information, use it for the betterment of our community, and not only are you going to use it, you're going to share this information with others. You're going to share it with your friends. You're going to share it with your family. And in the process of doing so, that's how we will be able to buy back the block. Okay, that's how we will be able to once again become owners and producers rather than simply consumers. Okay, so download that Empire Builder. Make sure that you're subscribed to this channel. There's not another channel that's going to show you across so many fundamental areas how to be able to get your life back on track, how to be able to improve your finances, how to be able to grow your career, how to be able to give back to those that you care about in your community and build a legacy. Okay? Please subscribe to this channel, guys. Thank you for your support. I love you all as always. I'll see you on the next video. Please take care.